We talk about it all the time, how sports are completely rigged and completely scripted, how we talk about the Champions League being scripted, how we talk about the NFL being completely scripted or the NBA being completely scripted. But I would like to talk about the NHL and why the NHL is completely rigged and completely scripted. The main reason that the NHL is rigged is you look at it at no other way than the fact that no Canadian team has won the NHL Stanley Cup Finals in over 25 years. And what really has been going on with the 30 respectful owners or the 32 respectful owners, whatever amount of owners there is in the NHL, is that they're trying to expand the game. And they're trying to expand the game to various markets in America. And the main thing that allows the NHL to be scripted is to have these certain small markets win and or make it to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. And they would make the Stanley Cup Finals instead of a Canadian team. For one, just like the National Basketball Association, the NHL is scripted for big markets. We talk about Philadelphia Flyers make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, or the fact that the LA Kings made the Stanley Cup Finals twice, or the fact that the Chicago Blackhawks had this sort of mini dynasty. They never repeated as NHL champions, but nonetheless, they still made it to the Stanley Cup Finals every other year, and I think they won something like 3 Stanley Cup Finals titles in 2 years. And then there's the Pittsburgh Penguins. There's the Pittsburgh Penguins who were in financial ruin back in 2004, and there was no guarantee that this franchise was going to continue. And then a year later, in 2005, they suddenly get the number 1 overall pick, and then the rest is history. That the Penguins started to get really good, and then they locked in these group of fans, and now you have this organization that really constantly wins, and they're like really successful and have a core base. So that's really what's going on with the NHL, and these people will agree with me. The game has been growing into these small markets like Tampa Bay, for example. They won 2 Stanley Cup titles. Anaheim Ducks, like no one watches hockey in the West Coast, and then the Anaheim Ducks won a Stanley Cup title, and the poor Canadians that still follow the rigged NHL and the open collusion against Canadian teams by the greedy American owners to expand the game in America for the one entity that is the NHL. These teams are not purely individual organizations competing with each other, because if that were the case, the teams would go bankrupt. And the reason why we have revenue sharing in professional sports leagues is to be sure that these individual franchises survive. And number 2, if there's revenue sharing, if everyone gets a piece of the pie for these playoff games, then all 32 owners end up profiting from their investments respectfully. So that's the second reason. I wanted to touch up on, I think it was the 2004 Stanley Cup Finals, Tampa Bay in Calgary. It was rigged against Canada. Because the Tampa Bay Lightning won, they were allowed to be bad, and fans would still root for the team. And today, good thing for the fans of Tampa Bay is that their team is actually good today. But the Calgary Flames were one goal away from making the game-clinching goal, the Stanley Cup sealing goal in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and the puck crossed the line. The referee, the referee was helping the NHL rig the series for the small market that they're trying to give a championship so they can expand the game. LA was one of these markets too. LA was not really into hockey until they got really good. The Stanley Cup should have been over. Canadian team won. Canadian teams have existed for years, and Canadian teams always have core support. So these teams, Gary Bettman, the NHL, was not concerned about. So, and you understand how it's rigged sometimes. Like, this is the best one. Like, here, the Arizona Coyotes were in like financial ruin, and no one would buy the team, and the league took over, and then the team made it to the NHL, Western Conference Finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And, we suddenly started to be good when we were trying to, sell the team here. I can't say we, because this team doesn't give a shit about the fans. I only go to Coyote games just to watch some entertainment. I'd never buy a piece of a Coyote merchandise or even try to follow the team exclusively for years. I tried doing that back in 2006, but only lasted a couple years or so because I just knew that the team was never going to be good and that they were never going to improve at all. But that's your rigged NHL, is that they try to expand the game into these small markets. They have big markets win. That helps for TV ratings overall. Canadian teams do bad in the Stanley Cup Finals. And Vancouver, they lost Game 7. It's all rigged against these teams. And, I feel bad for you Canadians because you're taken for suckers by greedy American corporatists that are taking your game. And I say this as someone from America, is that our country, in a way, is driven by greed and all, and we're destroying the game, and we were destroying traditional teams like the Canadiens and the Maple Leafs win, because I certainly would like to see a Montreal Canadiens or a Toronto team win, but the greedy American NHL has taken over. They have destroyed they destroyed Canada's game. They've destroyed Canada's game. Like, this is Canada's version of the Super Bowl, but they have completely destroyed it. So if I were you, I'd form your own Canadian league. If I were you guys, I'd have you tell the NHL to fuck you guys and fuck your little bullshit with expanding into these small markets. I could care less about the team outside of its championship winning year. And this is how your NHL is completely rigged and completely scripted. For more information, I'm gonna link up more videos to the top of this one, and maybe you can watch that goal from the 2004 Stanley Cup, and you decide for yourself.